prilično visok. Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us to our last but not the least March IT Up event. With us is our Milica Arsic from our development center in Niš. Here is also Sasha Todorovic. He will help her and give you another view in our Q&A section. But firstly, I would like to greet Milica. And Milica, say hello to everyone. How are you today?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, Slavica. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very optimistic about this, and I can't wait to share everything I prepared for you today.
A few minutes ago, when we prepared and when we are in that chat mode, chit-chat mode, we talked about this topic and how you can view it or look at it from many points of view. So, how did you decide to choose this topic and this perception? How did you come up with this?
Well, when we were crafting this topic, we wanted to share the experiences and lessons that we learned so far during the course of many years of working with clients from Silicon Valley. And we wanted to show how this mindset that Silicon Valley nurtures and fosters basically influences our everyday work, and what we can share with the rest of the world, if we can do it, then everyone can do it. So
yeah, and there are different techniques, how you approach this topic, and different type of teams which you need to manage. You're talking about that as well.
Yes, of course. Basically, I'm covering different areas of challenges that we faced in the past, and I'm giving basically the lessons that we learned and ways how everyone can overcome these challenges whenever they face them.
That's amazing. I think that we are all ready to hear all of these in detail. Just before you start and I give you the stage, I would like to give everyone who is with us right now the overview of the flow of the event. So guys, right now Milica will start with her presentation. We'll have a Q&A section. You know that we are organizing these meetups because one of the pillars in our company is knowledge sharing internally and externally. And we are not here only to present you something, to share something with you. This is like a full cycle for us, and we would like to learn from you as well. So please use the opportunity to speak to us, ask questions in our Q&A section after Milica's presentation. You have three options actually to communicate with us during the meetup. One is a chat box. You can actually ask us anything you want. You can share everything you notice with us in chat box during the presentation Q&A section, so please use it. Also, we talked about how broad this topic is and how it can be looked at from different perspectives. So please use the Q&A section. We want to fire it up. Sasha is today with us to give another perception and to support Milica in Q&A section to make it more live. So please use it. Hi, Sasha.
Hello from my side. Hi, guys.
Hi. Thank you for joining us today. So guys, you have two options for asking questions. For technical questions, please use Q&A section. It's better for us to have nice overview so that we can answer your questions. And please talk to us. You can speak up to Milica and Sasha. Raise a hand. You have an option in bottom of your Zoom window, and when you click it, I will see that you want to talk to us, and I will unmute you so you can speak up directly to Milica. So that's it. I will take a lot of your time, and Milica, good luck with your presentation. Take the stage.
Thank you. Okay, let me share the screen briefly. Okay, just a second. There it is.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so again, welcome everyone. So thanks to the all of the efforts of our amazing community team during this March IT Up campaign, I'm sure that you already know that I'm Milica, and that as of recently, I have joined the Symphony family here in Niš as a service delivery manager. And if you are wondering why I would be the best person to talk about this topic, that is sharing the lessons that we learned so far from working with clients from Silicon Valley. The best reason I can give you for this is that since 2014, when my professional career started, I have been working on projects in one role or the other. And as you can see here on this slide, I have been called many names due to the hats that I wore at the time. So I was a project manager, I was a Scrum Master, a product owner. I was even a startup co-founder at one point in time, but unfortunately didn't work out like it does in movies and TV shows. And I worked with different sizes of teams, so big and small, co-located, and teams that were distributed in 5 different countries, for example. And I worked in Agile projects, projects that were waterfall, and some kind of mixture. So for me, when it all comes down, what it sums up to is my whole career has been around projects, around people, and a lot of learning. And this is the angle I'm going for today. So let us move on to some challenges that I want to talk to you about today on projects. So when we are on this topic, most of you know already that first there was waterfall, and it was fixed everything. So from time to budget to scope. And after some time, these projects basically started failing. Things didn't work out. And we started having very sad project managers all over the world, very stressed out teams, clients who were displeased with the results of projects. And this happened because people struggled a lot with different things. They struggled with communication, with deadlines, with finding the right project scope, finding the right product for their market or the right market for their product. They struggled with different people and with many other things. So also fixing everything didn't work out. It's not a good thing for software to be fixed, because when you fix something, it breaks at some point. And if you ask me, software is a living thing. You cannot fix it. It needs to evolve, to grow. And as you know, we today have artificial intelligence and machine learning as best examples of software that grows. So we have these challenges from the past, and IT people at that time sat down and understood that they need to change something. So they gathered around this problem and tried to solve it. They tried to overcome it with different kind of tactics. So what they did is they made Agile, they made Scrum and Kanban and then Scrumban and so many other amazing methodologies that we use today to make all of our clients' wishes come true and to make our project successful. So what they realized is that something needs to change and in their approach. And they also realized that things change rapidly. So people's needs, markets, industries, they all change. And that's how they knew that in order to be successful on their projects, they need to be flexible. They need to adapt to this ever-changing environment. And yet, with so many changes and with so many different methodologies that we use today, we somehow still face the same challenges as IT professionals and generations before us. which is actually a good thing because it means there's a lot more for us to learn. And our teams here in Symphony have had the opportunity to face some of those challenges and learn a lot from them. So let me tell you something more about the projects and the clients that we work with. So what I want to share here is that we are very, very lucky to have the opportunity to work with Silicon Valley clients. However, what we are even luckier for and more proud of is the opportunity to see how their mindset works and to share it with them and learn from it and learn along the way with them. So, of course, we have some corporate clients and startups. And for different kind of clients, of course, we have different types of projects. So for our, for example, corporate clients, we have some of the projects that are fixed. They have fixed budgets and fixed scope. And these are the elements of waterfall methodology. However, here in Symphony, we foster the Agile way. So we work by delivering value incrementally and in iterations, so small batches of value after each sprint. And during the course of these fixed projects, what we can learn is that nothing is set in stone. Even if we say, okay, the scope is fixed, when you go through a project, while you learn about it, while you learn about how the market changes and basically your needs change, so does the scope. So again, nothing is set in stone, and also priorities do change on your project. Then the other type of projects that we do for our corporate clients are research projects. So here our teams have the opportunity to take a deep dive into the market and learn all there is about the specific needs that our clients or their end users have. And then they can use their expertise to craft solutions that best fit those needs. And on the other side, we have the startups and projects that are specific for them and their unique nature. So some of these projects are discovery projects, and our team's goals are basically revolving around moving fast. So crafting a solution fast and getting into the market, then failing fast, learning something from it, adapting their strategy, and trying again. We learn a lot here through trial and error, and this requires a truly flexible mindset that embraces this culture of failure and learns from it. And another type of startup projects that we have is the type where our startup clients have a strong ownership over their process management. These clients want little to no interference from our side in this part of the project. So what we do here, how we contribute, is we give out our people who have certain expertise in certain areas, and we form competence teams. Main goal of our competence teams is to build trust with our clients. And they do this by using their expertise to find solutions that best fit their needs. And they do it constantly, so over and over again. And this is how they slowly but steadily take over the ownership of parts of this process. Furthermore, our competence team's goal is to build stable and upgradable solutions, thus leading our clients from initial to investment phase. And this is how they build long-term successful relationships that lead to us being partners with our clients. Now, I would like to share some of the experiences that we have had over the years with our clients. So I have, as you can see, basically divided the challenges we had over the years into 3 topics: communication, project scope, and people. And I would like to start with communication. This is one of basically my favorite topics, because no matter how good you think you are in communication, there will always be that one person, that one situation or one project that will have you struggle with communication. And what I've heard so far is that people joke and think that business people or clients and engineers speak a different language, almost as if one come from Venus and one come from Mars. But if you ask me, and our teams agreed on that, one of the most difficult skills in communication to master is knowing how to ask the right questions at the right time. So let me tell you a story about how our team learned that. So we had a mostly sales-oriented client, and our team had difficulties understanding the requirements because of the differences in the language, the jargon, and so on. Also, our client frequently mixed the long-term vision and the defined scope with some of the ideas that they got during meetings or everyday work or just out of the blue. So our team has been preparing for this project, and since they knew that this is somewhat of an unknown area that they need to research more, they anticipated that there would be some sprint spillovers. So they would need to move some things from one sprint to the other. And at one point, the project started and the team actually did good. So sprint after sprint, they were doing well, no sprint spillovers, and they were ecstatic about it. So they wanted to pull in more work. They wanted to bring extra value to our client. And during one of the demo meetings, the client asked our team if it's possible for them to work on one experimental feature that was completely out of the original scope. And our team was very happy to hear that. And they said, yes, of course we can. So they all sat down and they wrote the requirements and processed them, and they pulled it into the next sprint and started working on it. And the sprint went well, the demo meeting came, and our guys were ecstatic to show the client what the feature does, how good it is. And the demo came and they showed the feature, and the client's response wasn't what they actually expected. So the client basically said that they are not going to move forward with it because it has no value for them. They realized that this feature doesn't have a market. And our guys were really sad about it. However, after that, on the retrospective, what they talked about is, where did we go wrong? And what they learned is that there was one moment in time where they could have simply stopped and asked the client, okay, why is this important? What is its feasibility? How will it contribute to your whole product? And this is the message I want to convey here. So whenever you are in the similar situation, try asking your client why this new feature that they are bringing to the table is important and how this little puzzle fits into the whole picture. So let me tell you another story that has a lot to do with communication, but it actually is somewhere around our good old world of documentation. So in my experience, most of the people think of documentation as of something bad, something that's very boring to do. And I believe it's because documentation currently is used as a communication tool, and that is far from its use. I will now tell you how our team basically learned why documentation is important and how to use it right. So we were working on an MVP for a startup, and our clients, the two owners of the startup, were really eager to push the product to the market. So as soon as possible, basically. And our team, over the course of several meetings, basically tried to explain that this can be done, but certain sacrifices had to be made. The sacrifices in point were architectural and unit testing sacrifices. So when this was brought to our clients, they thought about it for a moment and said, yeah, we understand it, but please go on, put it on the market. We will deal with this later. So our engineers, our team agreed with the clients during this meeting that this is what they will do. And so they did it. Mind you, this was all a verbal agreement. Nothing was written down. Fast forward a couple of months and the ownership changes. So a new owner comes, and by this time, this young product has already some problems. It has some kind of technical debt and so on. And of course, the new owner starts asking why, because it's a young product. How is it possible that now at this stage, it has some technical debt? And this is the point where our team was in trouble, because they realized they have no written proof of what happened, and they had trouble remembering what happened a few months ago because it was all during a meeting. And this is when they realized that even something as tedious and something as boring and as small as meeting minutes could have saved them a lot of trouble, a lot of time. They somehow managed to explain this to the new owner. But what they agreed upon for the future and what they're doing now is after every client meeting, they will write meeting minutes and send it to everyone on the team and the client. And the person who will be sending those would change depending on whose turn it is. So the take on this story is, as James Copeland says, use documentation to remember and not to communicate. Now, I would like to move on to project scope, as some of our experiences deal with this topic as well. So, of course, everyone knows that project scope changes. It's its job, it's what it does every day, all day. And it's normal. What our teams learned is that whenever it happens, you want to make sure that you have everyone on board with this. You want to have your whole team know that there are some changes in the scope, and you want to hear their opinions as to how these new changes will impact what they're doing and what will be done in the future. So during one of the meetings, we had a couple of engineers from our team alone with the client. And they talked about different things. And at one point, the client mentioned that they have a few smaller changes that they want to implement and a small feature that would be amazing to have with this delivery that is a couple of days ahead. And our engineers, of course, took a look at these requirements, and it didn't appear to them that it's a lot of work. So they said, okay, of course, we will do our best. So they took these requirements back to the rest of the team. Of course, the client was very happy. But when they came to the team, they said, okay, here's what's the outcome. We have a couple of more smaller changes that the client asked us to do, and let's see what we can do about it. And at this point, the rest of the team had to signal that something's not right, that they didn't basically estimate the needed effort good. So what happened is they decided to learn from this because the mistake was already made, but they will deal with it later. Right now, they needed to do their best to make the client happy and to honor the commitment that their teammates made. So the next couple of days were extremely hectic for our guys, and they somehow pulled through. They were really stressed out, but they did it. And the client, of course, was ecstatic. What happened on the retrospective after is they all sat down and tried to see how they will avoid this situation in the future, what they will do. And they found a way, and each of the team members committed to it. So fast forward a couple of months from that point, the client comes again with the same maneuver, with the same story. Okay, I need this. Can it be done, please? And our engineers basically recognized the same situation, the same pattern. And what they did is the following. They sat and they said, okay, we will take these requirements back to our team to discuss it with them. We need their opinions. And when we do, when we have the information on how much it will take, how big of an effort this is, we will get back to you with this information, and then you will know when this can be done. So they didn't commit to doing the feature. They committed to simply seeing how much it will take for them to do it. The client was okay with this because they didn't need it right away. And the moral of this story basically is whenever this happens to you, make sure you do not commit right away. Make sure your whole team is on board with whatever the change is, because you want that unity, you want that strength of the whole team with you when you come to your client. Another story I have to tell you about our experiences has to do again with project scope and prioritization. And what I want to say is that, you know how by default it's very, very hard to say no. And I mean, have you ever tried telling no to your grandma when she offers you food or sweets? If you have, you know how impossible that is. And now imagine you're having a great relationship with your client and you need to tell him no for some things. It's basically 1,000 times harder. However, one of our teams had an amazing experience and they figured out how to do this without actually saying no and without hurting anyone's feelings. And this is the story about that. So our client was one of the corporations, and they had this mostly fixed setup project. And so our team was working on this project that had most of its backlog already defined. So we were in the middle of the sprint. The grooming session for the next sprint already took place, and everything was going as planned. But one day, our client comes rushing in with this new feature out of the blue and says that they need it for yesterday and they need its priority to change to the highest possible. So what our team did is they went into what we call a negotiation mode. So they sat down with the client and they took the requirements that the client currently had with them regarding this feature. And they, on the other side, took our backlog that was already prioritized. And then they kept doing this one thing. They kept asking only one question. And the question was, okay, is this new feature of higher importance than the first feature with highest importance in our backlog? It took our client a minute to think about it, but they said no. okay, is the next one in line of lower priority than the new one? The answer was again no. And we basically kept asking this question until we found the place where this new feature fits best into our backlog. During this process, the client realized that they don't have all of the information that they needed for this feature. And what we also showed the client very clearly is that whenever they want to put in one feature, some of the other features need to get lesser priority and be moved down from where they would be if they were to go into development right now. So whenever you are in this similar situation like this, try being clear and transparent to your client about what gets to be moved down if something new is to come to be worked on and put in development. And sometimes, yes, it will happen that features will have higher priority, and it's completely okay to put them at the beginning and work on them right away. But be transparent about what happens if you work on something urgently. And last but not least story that I would like to share with you today is about people and about how people are amazing. And this story is also about how one person, even though it's a hypothetical person, failed at its attempt, and how our team saved the day without even knowing it. So our team worked for this client for some time, and they were showing very good results. It was one of those deep dive projects where they learned a lot, and they basically had to change their perspective and figure out how to help our client in the best possible way, of course. So they were working on a WordPress blog, and the research was about finding the tools that would benefit our clients the most. And one particular tool stood out. It was a tool that, for a small monthly fee, basically backs up your content blog in case life happens. So we organized a meeting to tell this to our client, to suggest this new tool, and we surprised him because he was not even thinking that it could happen. They didn't even go there. So they were very happy that we suggested this, and they bought the tool and implemented it a couple of days later. And we were very, very happy about it. The whole team was celebrating and all. And a couple of days after that, basically Murphy tried to ruin it all for us. So what happened is the blog went down. And what we got is not an upset client. What we got was an email with a huge thank you for being proactive and for saving the day even before anything happened. So what I'm trying to convey here is that going the extra mile for your clients pays off in more than one way. So try putting yourself in your client's shoes more often. Try switching hats. See how that brings the extra value to your client. So let me now tell you something more about all of these lessons. So these experiences that I've just shared with you, I am pretty sure that most of you here had these similar experiences with your clients on your projects. And if you look at these advice that I put here on this slide, they may seem like complete cliches to you guys and like overused motivational speakers, sentences and quotes and so on. But what I can tell you from my experience is that these actually work. I promise you they work. And what I want you to take from this meetup is that you should actually really focus on your communication, whether it's within your team or with your client. And whatever you do, please don't assume you know everything, because chances are you don't. I haven't met a person or heard about a person that can read minds, so I'm pretty sure none of us can. And that's how I know that we cannot know what our client is thinking, what our teammate is thinking. So the reasonable thing to do is to ask just that, because there are no stupid questions. And I keep telling my teams that over and over again, whenever they come to me and say, okay, hey, I have a silly question. Nothing is silly, nothing is stupid. And if you feel the need to ask something, that only means that something was not clear enough. It wasn't explained good enough for you. And that is okay, because there are no two people in the world that communicate the same. And what else I want to tell you is that you should try to nurture this mindset of walking in other people's shoes. If you don't understand what your client is struggling with, chances are you won't be able to create a solution that will help them with their problems. And this is actually the mindset that we here at Symphony have. So to provide the quality that we do in everything we do, and to foster the relationship that we have, we simply need to change perspective on daily basis. So try to change your hats often. Try switching them and see how that feels. See how your client feels. Also, make sure you know that your own strength is the strength of your team and vice versa. So make sure you trust your team, you get their opinion on different things. In the past, also, I had the experience to hear other people speak about clients not being the part of the team and so on. And I disagree. I think that when you make the client a part of your team, you have more benefit from it, because at the end of the day, you are working towards the same goal. You achieve more and you provide additional value. And that's how you build trustworthy relationships, which is another point I want to make. I want to tell you to try committing to what you can deliver. So that's how you can get your client to trust you. That's how you build good relationship with them. Stick to your promises, basically. And one of the last things I want to tell you as a piece of advice is that it's completely okay to say you don't know something when you're asked, because none of us do. It's okay to not know something. Just when you say that, make sure you follow it up with, I will find out and I will get back to you. And then simply go and do it. Trust me, your teammates, your clients, people you're working with will value you more for that. It's really, really this simple. And what I actually want to emphasize here with this whole story is that we are all people, we are all human, and we actually have the opportunity to work together on creating some amazing things that influence people around the world in so many ways that we cannot begin to imagine. And while we do so, we make mistakes and we fail. And we fail especially when we're trying something new. And if you ask me, the amazing thing that there is that you get to learn from this failure. you get to learn more about your teammates, about your clients, about your company, your project, and at the end of the day, about yourself. And those are invaluable lessons. And if you have ever wondered what it is like to work with Silicon Valley, I hope I managed to give you an answer to this question. It takes a really, really special mindset that is all about learning through trying new things, failing, adapting, and trying again. And this is how you achieve continuous improvement for your team and for your company. And that is all I had to tell you today. So thank you.
Thank you, Milica, for a great presentation. You gave us a different overview and, just to return the camera to normal. Now, guys, now it's time for Q&A section. So please feel free to ask any question about this topic and raise a hand, maybe talk to us directly, and that's it. Let's see how it goes. We have Sasha, you can join us right now, yeah?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you, Milica. I really liked the metaphor you have used. The job of a scope is to change, like the job of a dog is to bark. It's a really fun metaphor, but again, really accurate. So let's start with the questions now. As Slavica said, you can also raise a question and ask it in person. So first question for you, Milica. Do you find it challenging to protect the team from irrational requests coming from the client?
That's a good question, actually. Well, yes, it is always challenging when you have irrational requests. But as I mentioned, there are techniques that are very useful. And mastering them is hard because you first have to probably figure out what the request is and why your client wants them. But if you use some of the techniques I told you about, like asking why that's important, or showing where that will fit, I believe you will do a good job at protecting your team. And also depends what your role is, whether it's a Scrum Master, whether it's product owner coming to you or not.
Yes, sometimes also it, let's say, it can seem as irrational to us, but from the other hand, it might have perfect sense from the other side. And as you said previously, we learn together through this process. So thank you. The next one is, how do you manage risks in the project you cannot predict?
Well, you try.
Sorry to interrupt, but a lot of risks we intend to predict, to mitigate before they actually became risks in the first place. But yes, we can face the situation about some things that come out of the blue. I would not say that it is a risk at this point. It is an issue at that point. But yes, you can share from your side how do you cope with such situations.
Well, basically, when these situations happen, because if you cannot predict it, it becomes a situation and it happens simply. My go-to would always be transparent and clear communication with the client at the right moment when that happened. So I would include the client into solving this, because you want them to know what is happening with your team, with the project, and maybe they have a good angle that can contribute to finding the solution. So this is when having the client on your team really does the trick and brings additional value. So yeah, I would try communicating it clearly and transparently.
Yes,
and I
exactly.
hope this answers the question.
I believe so. I would just like to add that apart from being transparent, we also tend to respond quickly, to come up with, if possible, several options, but again, with alignment with the client to act upon the best possible way and solution. Thank you. The next question is how to approach re-prioritization in a way that's beneficial for the team and clients.
This is also an interesting one. So reprioritization of features is something that's normal. As I said, it's project scope's job to change. And try educating your client in the best way possible, how to do it, what you need for reprioritization, what level of information your features need to have to be reprioritized better, or basically to be moved up in the backlog list. Because if you're trying to move a feature that's way below and somehow you think it's now very important, you want to signalize your client that you need enough information about this feature to move it and to work on it. You need to tell them that you need time to process this feature, to understand what it does in terms of how it fits the bigger picture. So I would actually say definitely educate your client.
Okay, thank you.
Sasha, would you have something to add to that?
Not to this question, maybe to the next one. What is your biggest challenge in your role from month to month, from release to release? I would extend that question maybe from day to day. So what are your challenges, Milica? And I can add something from my side as well.
Well, currently for the last year, I believe all the challenges were in communication, in terms of people are working remote. You cannot see them. It's very hard for me to get a sense of how my teammates are feeling. Here I have a very good experience from when I was a Scrum Master and when I worked with distributed teams. So over time, I learned, since of course, people don't want to turn on their cameras, I learned how to recognize how my teammates are feeling by the sound of their voice. So I didn't even need to hear them to know if they're doing good or bad, or if something's troubling them. So I would say communication now in remote work would be the toughest challenge. So basically having a sense of how everyone's doing, what they're struggling with, what problems they have. And that would be my biggest challenge currently. Sala, how about you?
From my perspective, as you said, this year was really interesting, the whole year. And what is my takeaway is how we should quickly adapt to a new situation. It is also related to project activities, to project changes. We had, for example, a situation where during the course of 6 months, we did twice redesign of the whole application. And each time you need to have a fresh perspective, fresh focus, restart after one redesign and hit the goal of MVP or sprint goals for the following period with that, let's say, fresh eyes, fresh mind, and to deliver what is expected. So adapting is a challenge that we need to excel, I believe, today. So thank you. The next one, how do you deal with a client who doesn't know anything about coding and IT administration?
Well, I would say try explaining, try different workshops, try showing how important it is, what you do and what it does. That would be my go-to, actually. So workshops, education, trainings, it's important for your client to understand what you're bringing to the table and how that will influence what they are doing. Salad, do you have anything to add to that?
I recognized the part that you have explained earlier regarding people from different worlds and the languages they speak. Maybe also what works here is to speak their language or to bring up in the way that they understand what we actually want to achieve. So I would just like add that part as explaining to the people that are not, let's say, IT educated. But on the other hand, they do understand business, and if you speak business-wise with them, they will certainly understand. We will be on the same page.
Yeah, I can add to that. There are people basically when it comes to different language or different jargons, however you want to call it, I found it beneficial that when this happens, when you have a strictly business person that doesn't really understand much IT, it's important that someone on the team, whoever it is, starts speaking this business language and tries to explain or tries to find a common ground, basically. It sometimes means that you need to learn a lot about something that's not your main area of expertise, not your main topic. And it has a lot of other difficulties that it brings with itself. But it proved crucial in some of my previous experiences. So having someone speak the same language as the client, so basically having a translator of sorts, is very, very beneficial in these situations.
Thank you, Milica. Thank you, Sasha. We have a few more questions. Thank you for answering. If you want to speak up to us, please raise a hand and you can talk directly to Milica and Sasha.
Okay. I will answer to the next question, and you can think of the answer to the next one. The question for you is, what's the one mistake that you wish you didn't make? So you can think about that. And there is a question, which certified Agile courses do you recommend on a low budget? I would say you actually do not need certified course to learn or understand Agile better. Meetups such as this one is a very good opportunity to learn something or to share the experience with other. You can reach to us at any time. and we can also speak about this topic. But it is more, let's say, educate yourself if you would like to spend less money through the free or meetups or some online courses instead of getting certification. So I would say you please reach to us and we can speak more about this topic. So Milica, back to you.
What's the one mistake I wish I didn't make? I've made many mistakes so far, and I've learned so much from them. I mean, if I hadn't made them, I wouldn't have all of this experience. I wouldn't learn so many techniques, how to not make them again. But there's one that's, or maybe two, if it's okay, that I made that are basically, yeah, something that I keep reminding myself not to do again. So it's similar to the story I told. So when I was a young product owner, at the beginning of that journey, I had a client who was really pushing for new features. So he was asking more than we agreed on, and I wanted so badly to please the client because, again, I was new, learning, and so on. And I accepted more than, again, my team could bargain for. And when I told them what we need to do, they weren't very happy. And by the looks in their eyes, I saw that I made a huge mistake. And they were amazing. They were an amazing team, one of the best I worked with. And of course, they didn't let me down. They helped me with it. They stayed over time when it was needed, and they made it all happen. However, this is when I learned that I need to politely say no to my client, to find a way to do so when this situation of scope creep appears. So this is the point where I could I was basically at the point where I could lose the respect and yes, the respect of my team, the trust of my team, because I was so eager to show the client that yes, we can do it. Yes, my team is amazing. Yes, you will be happy with us, and so on. And I did my best not to do that again. And the other mistake, it's not such a mistake as more of a revelation. It's when I was Scrum Master. So with my other Scrum Master colleagues, we organized this workshop for new employees, where we would play a game. It's the airplane game. I'm sure some of you know about it. If not, Google it. It's very interesting. It explains how efficient Scrum is, but in a fun way. And the fun part is very important. And my role was a facilitator one. So my job was to monitor if the teams were doing what they're supposed to do according to the rules. So one part of the game is that when they make a plane, they have a set of rules and they make a plane. So each of the members on the team has basically one move to make this airplane. And my job was at this point where they need to throw it the longest, basically the longest distance. My job was to monitor if they're doing it correctly, if they're not overstepping the line, and so on. And at that point in the game, I completely lost focus. So I lost focus on what was important. And I was so eager on having people follow the rules that my colleague, my fellow Scrum Master, shout out to Tita, she was sitting in a chair and watching us all, and she called me and she said, "It's just a game. Have fun." And it hit me. I was being so focused on the form and not on the essence of the game, on showing them how fun it is and how easy it is to do Scrum and what value it brings with these airplanes. And I was so focused on the rules, on the wrong thing, basically, that even today I remember this vividly. It's a game, have fun, please. That, yeah, it keeps, whenever I'm in this situation that you can lose focus on the bigger picture, I remember her words and I snap out of it. So those were some of the, let's say, memorable things or mistakes I made.
It's actually good that you use the game to actually learn something new, and that actually influence your career and how you do things later on. So that's cool. Sasha, what's your biggest mistake? You worked as SDM really long.
I would say Milica put it very well. If we didn't make some mistakes, we wouldn't be where we are today. What I have learned a long time ago is to let's say, to pay attention more, to listen more before you speak back, to listen carefully what the other side wants or requests from you or have to say before you make any action, make any action that you have planned. So that is something that I have learned. I would put it more in a way learning before the mistake, in terms of listen carefully, listen not to respond, but listen to understand. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
that is what I would like
somehow
to share.
we talked about perspective all the time, and at the beginning of this meetup and right now, I think that listening is not only about just what you hear or what you read. It's about understanding the point of view of the person you are talking to. Either it is your team or your clients. So you need to have bigger perspective of everything that's happening and deciding what's the best in your case. If I understood it right. Okay, we have a few more questions and then we can finish this saga. So, Sasha.
Okay, there is a very interesting question. How do you handle objections you don't agree with from clients, and especially if client is avoiding to explain the reasons for the complaint and demand to change the financial arrangement because of that? Maybe these are two questions, but let's start. If you have objections that you do not agree with your client, you act as a, let's say, representative of your team, your company, etc. On the other hand, there is other person that represents the other team, let's say. And if are only two persons involved, it might happen that the perception is different, that there are some misunderstanding, etc. But often there are a lot of people involved in the things that we do, and those people can help us bring, let's say, bring closer the truth. So to handle such objections, the best way is to collect the information from the other, let's say, pair of eyes, to have better understanding and to come up with the facts facts work the best in the situations where there are misunderstanding. If you do not have, let's say, that engagement from the other side, or as you said, it is client that do not want to explain why there are complaints in place, you need to understand better, especially if they demand to change the financial arrangements or etc. You need to understand what triggers them to come up with such question or such issue or whatever. Again, it is the topic of communication, but you need to, let's say, as Milica said, do it politely, but also to be smart, to recognize what is the best approach with such persons. And also you will maybe need some support from other colleagues that are more skillful in negotiation part or something like that. So Nicola, if that answers your question, or if not, please talk to us, raise your hand. Do you have, Milica, something to add here?
You put it excellently, nothing to add.
Okay. Thank you, Nicola, for this question. The next one is, what would you say is more challenging, becoming Scrum Master or SDM growing from development, or becoming a different background that is not from development?
Both of these journeys, as you described, so SM, SDM from development, or becoming that from another background, both of them are challenging. I can speak from my experience. I don't have a technical background, so it took me some time to understand what engineers are talking about, this other language. And now I do understand a lot better than I used to, but it took some time, it took some effort. It took me asking them to explain some things that are basic for them and that were advanced for me. So I had my teams educate me on front-end, back-end architecture, databases, UI, UX, whatever, testing. And at the beginning, you seem to yourself only like a very ignorant person, like you're bothering them, like you're a burden, but that's not true, actually. I learned that through this interaction with your team, you can gain valuable insight as to how they communicate, what their pet peeves are, and so on. And it was hard because, again, for me, these were things that I really didn't understand, but I wanted to learn. And if you're trying that from a different background, have faith in yourself, and because you can do it. And for other people who are more technical, they lack. So I lacked technical skills, or technical knowledge. Let's say it like that. And people who come from technical background trying to become SDMs or SMs, the experience showed that they lack social skills. So understanding people, communicating them, having empathy and listening, basically what Saleh said earlier, listening to understand, not to respond. So I hope that this helps in terms of what you need to focus on, depending on what your background is and what you're trying to achieve. So I hope that answers it.
This kind of question or this topic is a topic for itself, and we can organize a meetup to speak about pros and cons from different backgrounds and career paths, etc. But there are pros and cons, and there are development areas in both directions, and both, let's say, career paths need support from the organization, from the other side, etc. And yes, we can think of organizing another meetup maybe on this topic. Also, I would encourage all of you to share with us maybe something that things that you would like to hear from us, or maybe to share with us on some of the future meetups. You can contact us directly, any of us that you met today, but we will be glad to speak with you on other topics. So thank you for those questions.
Thank you guys for your patience and for thoroughly answering to those questions. Thank you everyone for staying with us this late and actually sharing knowledge with us. This was the last event in our March IT Up campaign that came from our development center in Niš. Thank you for following us, joining us at our events. Follow us on our social media, and you will learn there everything that happens in Symphony, and you will have a notification about all the events that are coming up in the following period. So just once again, I want to mention you will get the follow-up with presentation, with the recording. So if you missed any part, don't worry, we covered you up. So that's it. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you, Milica. This was amazing presentation. Thank you for Q&A section and for your patience in answering all the questions. So that would be all, guys. Okay. See you some next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.